Alright, peace and greetings, YouTubers. Okay, so I begin to watch the beginning of the series Book of Negros, and I actually think it's a very interesting piece of work to watch, and I'm glad that, it's a story that's being told. I'm glad that it's actually BET showing it, because, they be tripping with the stuff they want to show. So I'm glad they actually had something with a little bit of substance. I said BET, I'd almost give you a hand clap, but I don't know. You got to be consistent, okay? You don't get rewarded for just, anyway. So, now originally when I saw the promotional trailers, I wasn't sure if I wanted to watch this, and I have my opinions, but I'll briefly share it. I think I feel some type of way with the fact that when it comes to our history being displayed in film and in TV and in media, it's always the same two narratives that are always displayed. Slavery, civil rights. Slavery, civil rights. Slavery, civil rights. That's all we're ever told. We're in the bottom of the ship, getting sprayed with the hose. Bottom of the ship, sprayed with the hose. And even though that is one aspect of our history, and that is something that we can never forget so that it can't repeat itself, even though it looks like it's repeating itself all the time right now, especially within the judicial system and in our public policy, there are other aspects of our history that need to be told. And even within the slave narratives, and even within the civil rights narratives, they may need to also start telling the other aspects. They keep continuing to tell the same story. So I almost felt some type of way, even with Selma. As much as I respect Martin Luther King, we already had a Selma movie, Selma Lord Selma with Journey Smollett, the same story. Why we got two of them? That was how I felt. I was like, there are other aspects. You could have talked about some of the other things that are going on. And like what I noticed with our history is Americans are so, or the way that Black history is taught in America is just so screwed up, and it's almost as if Black history stops after Martin Luther King died, and people really go with this mindset that, after Martin Luther King was killed in '68, everybody was just so shocked that such a great man could be killed that everybody just snapped out of racism and everything was great. Lyndon B. Johnson, he signed some stuff and whatever, with '68 he signed some stuff and everything was just great, and now we can all piss in the same toilet, and that's the way things are. So then what happens is when you start advocating for structural change and policy shifts and everything like that within our political system to make things actually equal and fair for everybody, people don't know how to respond, and it comes off as being radical. And the only thing that they can quote is the three things they've been taught. They can't tell you that you were once a slave, because that's going to make them look racist. They can't tell you about the civil rights era, because that's going to make them look racist. But they can tell you that Martin had a dream. And every time you bring up racism, you're messing up his dream and giving him a nightmare. So I would really like to see different aspects of our history told. There's such a rich history that we have. And we've been on this planet for tens of thousands of years before the ships ever came to the coastlines, okay? So I'm like, what do you think we were doing all in those different regions of Africa before the ships came? Because we certainly weren't just laying around waiting for the ships to show up. Because hell, we had our own ships that we built. And on those ships, we went and traveled to Europe and talked to freaking Europeans about bathing and sanitary issues. You can talk about the Moors, teaching them how to bathe and use soap and everything because they were getting killed off by the tens of millions by the Black Plague. Or you could talk about just training and teaching about seasoning and cooking different aspects and medicines and healing and things like that, but that's never brought up. And if they do talk about anything other than slavery regarding Africa, the only thing they're ever going to talk about is Egypt. And my issue with Egypt is one of 400 plus different kingdoms. Alright, Egypt was not the only place in Africa that had pyramids. You can go right over there to West Africa, they had just as many pyramids. You can go right there to Sudan, which has more pyramids than Egypt ever had. Stuff like that. And nothing against Egypt, but my issue with Egypt is we don't even give credit for Egypt anymore. They want to give all that to everybody else but people who are of African descent. It's kind of like, oh, well, the pyramids are just so technologically advanced, even in 2015, that, our equipment couldn't build it. We don't know how they were built. It had to be aliens. And I'm looking like, okay, so because y'all were too stupid to figure out how to build it, you trying to tell me that my people didn't know how to do it back then? Clearly they did. That's why it's up. And it's still, wind erosion, everything, they still standing. But, sorry, man, let me stay focused. I'm just saying. Lord. Alright. So, back to topic. So Book of Negros, it follows a girl named Aminata, and she lives in the region of Guinea, or country of Guinea. Of course, at the time, it wasn't really a country, because there were no countries in Africa at the time. Everybody just kind of lived in different tribal areas and spoke different languages and stuff like that. So she, it follows her from the time that her village is invaded, and she meets a boy named Jakarta, and unfortunately, he's actually a slave catcher, or he's a part of a slave catching unit. Now, here's an aspect that I wish could have been presented differently, or maybe it's not even the job of the producers and director of this film, but somebody else that also wants to tell these type of stories. And by the way, I'm giving spoilers, so if you haven't seen it and you don't want this to be ruined, just turn this off and come back to it after you've seen parts, or half of y'all ain't watching this anyway because you was watching Love and Hip Hop anyway. Just keep watching. When it comes to slave catchers, I hate the fact that when you start getting into a debate about anybody regarding slavery, the first thing people like to do, especially white people, they love to bring up, oh, well, you know, there are Africans that sold their own people. You guys sold your own people to slavery. I'm like, no, whoa, hold up. When you actually dig into the real history of how that worked, there were usually two different narratives. One was you had somebody and they had a gun to their head, and the option was you go ahead and you go get your cousins and go get the buff ones and bring them over here and put them in the ship, or we're killing you and everybody else in your village, or we're just gonna come and take all of y'all and you can be a slave too. And well, shoot, okay, well, dang, or we have some riches for you, and you know we've earned your trust, so you know just here's some gold and some other things. I mean, you already had gold in your country because gold wasn't even anything important because it was just laying all around in your whole country because your country just filled with resources. But you know, take this and you go ahead and kidnap a few of them people from that other tribe, you know, because they don't speak your language anyway, and you don't really see them as your brother or sister, so you just go ahead and kidnap them and bring them on over here. And then the other aspect is when you look at the fact that slavery, the word slavery didn't exist, and then slavery did exist in regions of Africa, but it was a different form of slavery. It wasn't chattel slavery in America where you're getting whooped and lynched and burned and all that other crap. It was more so an aspect where, you know, it's almost like you were adopted by a family as a child or younger or even older, and you basically worked for that family, but you lived in their house, they fed you, they did everything. You were just like a member of the family. You were in like a contract, and you'd be paid, or you know, when your term was up, you go back to your family, you do whatever, and maybe at the end you get some land and you could start your own thing, you know. So the definitions of slavery were different, and a lot of these people who were going and snatching up these people had no idea what they were sending them over to. They didn't know they were sending them to hell on earth. Okay, so it was interesting with the Jakarta guy. So he was a slave catcher, but he befriended Aminata, and of course her name changes a few times. It changes from Aminata to I think it was Mary, and then Amina, just depending on what plantation she was on. So that was one aspect that got me. Another part that got me was when they got to America, and she had never been in cold weather before, because when you talk about the different regions of Africa, the weather, they have, you know, different parts of Africa has all different types of weather, but the part where she was at, I guess they were never used to cold, so she saw the frogs coming out of her mouth and out of Jakarta's mouth, and she was like, you know, my face is on fire, you know, there's smoke coming out of my mouth, are we on fire? And I'm like, wow, I never thought about what that would have to be like to go to a different region of the world, and you've never experienced that type of weather before. I mean, I saw when I was at Howard, and the girls from Miami would lose their minds when it would snow, but you know, it's such a different aspect, because at least you knew what snow was on TV, but if you've never been to, you know, a region where, you know, something like that goes down, I'm sure that's a very interesting experience. Now, I did have some questions though. One piece that got me was there's a portion where they're on the ship, and Aminata, she somehow was able to collect a bunch of different weapons from the guy on the ship that had a crush on her, this white guy. Or actually, it wasn't even that. It was because she was able to teach people how to give birth, and she was talented and stuff. So she kind of had a few extra privileges on the ship. But she had all these different little sharp objects and stuff, and she passed these out to all these different people on the ship. And the plan was, I guess, they were going to revolt and try to kill everybody on the ship. But what got me was, on the day of the revolt, they had this looking like they were on Carnival Cruise Line. I was so confused because, one, you have some of the enslaved people on the boat, and they're playing the drums, and then you have some of the women who have been captured, and they're just dancing with the ship crew and this and that, and gyrating all up in here, and then even the little slave catchers and the white men, they getting down, and they got rhythm and stuff. I'm like, whoa. I know that wasn't going down on no damn ship. Okay, and I know how y'all used to party back in the day, because I saw 12 Years a Slave. I saw that crap. Y'all remember when... So I knew them white people in that shit was not doing all this stuff here with the whatchamacallit. So I was like, y'all, I don't know who wrote that part, but y'all freaking, they weren't appropriating stuff yet. So that threw me off a bit. Plus, I was like, now, if I was just a newly captured person and I'm on some shit with all these people I don't think I'm gonna feel like partying, okay? I don't even party at the company Christmas party if I don't like half the people I work with. So I know I ain't about to party with no people I don't watch kill half my family. Anyway, so let me stay focused. But then they did the revolt. It didn't go too well, and yeah, more people got killed. I was like, dang. But I wonder how often, you know, even like revolts on the ships work, because when you think about the fact that a lot of times when they were putting all these different enslaved people on the ships, they were coming from all different types of tribes. So a lot of times they didn't speak the same language, and they would do that on purpose because, you know, if everybody at the bottom of the ship speaks a different language, nobody can communicate, nobody can plot. Don't worry about it. So I wonder how, you know, those revolts and stuff would be organized. Who organized them? How did they work? Then there was a portion where she meets Lady Miss Lindahl, who was actually, I like Miss Lindahl. Too bad she died in the first 10 minutes of her scene, but you know, she befriends Miss Lindahl and she's gonna help her, like, you know, give birth to her baby. But smallpox kills her off. And what got me was Miss Lindahl's husband, or Mr. Lindahl. You know, he's getting ready to go to New York to do some things, and Aminata finds out that, you know, because Aminata also had a child that was sold off because her previous slave master just couldn't stand the fact that she was in love and she was happy, and she had a child with her real man, and he was heartbroken. You should have stuck with your little, be quiet. So he sold the baby off, but she finds out that they had sold the baby off in Savannah. And sidebar, listen, when I heard that part, now my whole family's from Savannah, so I was like, let me find out me and Aminata are cousins or something by a long way, but the baby got killed off, so never mind. But anyway, so she finds out that, you know, Mr. Lindahl had helped to sell the baby, and she's pissed off about it. They get in like this argument, and he slaps her. And she hits him back. And nothing happens. And I was like, really? Because like it was so good when she hit him, but I was like, don't do it, because they're gonna kill you and cut off everything, and they're gonna cut off like 4 of your fingers, and you already got your head shaved in the last scene. Please don't. But nothing happened, and I'm like, now from all the books and stuff I read, I don't remember that happening too much. Okay, usually if you hit slave master, you need to finish them off. Okay, it was almost like Frederick Douglass and Dr. Covey. Like he laid Dr. Covey out in that house. Oh, you gonna hit me? I'm gonna show you now. I'm gonna just take you all the way out. So I was interested to see, you know, how that happened, but nothing happened. I said, okay. So I'm anxious to see how much of this is actually true and how much has been rewritten to make it good for TV and, you know, stuff like that. Because, you know, it's the South. It's like South Carolina. And I just don't see that happening. Anyway, there's 2 more parts coming to it. I'm anxious to see where it goes. I'll give a more detailed, thorough review of the whole thing once all 3 parts air. But I just wanted to kind of talk about what I saw, you know, so far. But so far, so good. You know, they have to rush it a little bit because they got to keep within the time frames. But I think it's really interesting. I think people should watch it. It's something that's great for conversation and debate. And all right, you guys tell me what you think about it. Make sure to catch it, subscribe, and I'm out.